Moving on to other stories. This week, beneficiaries under the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program are expected to receive twice their bi-monthly allowance after 6 months of delayed payment. According to the Secretariat, 344,786 beneficiaries will be paid the 75th and 76th cycle of the grant starting 18th April 2022. The Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty (LEAP) program has been fraught with consistent delays and thereby affecting the living conditions of beneficiaries. The wake of the global COVID-19 pandemic is believed to have also had some far-reaching impact on the program, which is heavily dependent on donor support. I'm sure you're yearning to know how beneficiaries have been coping in the last 5 months without the allowance and what difference the ongoing payment would make in their lives. Well, Head of the LEAP Management Secretariat, Mr. Miles Ongo, is my guest for all the answers today. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Good morning.
Thank you.
Now,
thank you.
What caused
Thanks
the delay?
Having me.
Grateful to you. What caused the delay of the distribution of the funds in the last 5 months?
The delay happened because there were certain processes we needed to follow, and we've gone through all that, and government had to make some releases for that to be done. And normally when we delay in paying, we make sure that we do some combined payment. So we try as much as possible not to be in arrears. And so as you've seen and as indicated in the write-up, we are going to do a combined payment of 75th, 76th cycle payment. These were delayed, but we're sure that once we combine this for them, beneficiaries will be able to use it and engage in several things that will promote their well-being.
What sort of processes are these that has caused have caused the delay in the release of funds to beneficiaries?
So delay in funds really, and I must correct that government of Ghana large, about 70% is government money, it's not donor support. And so we must give them that credit. And they are committed in trying to ensure that we get regular money to pay our beneficiaries. As you are aware, our objective is to make regular bi-monthly payment. We are sad when we don't do that. And of course, we rely on government to make available money. And so once it's delayed, we know that they are trying hard to do or to make available the money. So yes, there are several processes, but the bottom line is that we've been able to get the money to make payment for the 75th, 76th cycle payment. Thank you.
How many people are on the program now as we speak?
As we have about the LEAP program pays household about 334,786 households, but translated to individuals is well over 1.5 million individuals.
Now, yes. How much is this grant which are distributed on bi-monthly basis then?
So the grant is not evenly distributed. One member household, eligible member household, gets 64 Ghana cedis. 2 member is 76. 3 member is 88, and then 4 and above is 106. Remember that the LEAP program is focused on reducing extreme poverty. And once we do our mean testing and realize that your household is extremely poor, there ought to be presence of vulnerability. In that case, you are looking at orphans and vulnerable children, you are looking at severely disabled without the capacity to work. We have older people without any support, and pregnant and lactating mother. These are what we call vulnerable members. And so if the household is even extremely poor and these vulnerable groups are not there or are not, the household will not be eligible. So this is it. So, but 1 member household is 64, and then 2 members 76, 388, and 4 and above is 106 Ghana cedis by month.
So these monies are given to the individual or the households, the 76 and something you're mentioning?
Yes, so the individual is from household and is expected to smoothen their consumption. And so it's expected that when you receive the money, it should be used in the household. So your children would benefit from whatever amount you received. You are not to use the money to go buy clothing or anything. It is meant to ensure that you have some good meals. You are able to take your children to school and all of that. Yeah. So it's for the household.
So if there are 4 people, you multiply the figure by the 4 for you to get how much you are supposed to give the household, right?
That really is not the calculation. So you notice that the 1-member household and from a 64, and then 2-member 76. It's not like multiplying by, if you're 64, you multiply by 2, then we'll be looking at 120 something, but that is not it. So it's just some calculation that goes into it. At the time, we're looking at the consumption of the household. I mean, there are standards elsewhere we looked at to ensure that we come out with these calculations for in a 1-member, 2, 3, and 4 and above. But we don't simple add it. So if you are 1 member, we add another 64. That is not it.
Oh, okay. Because if someone is listening or watching and wants to really get the understanding of how you do your calculation and how much you have to give, the person might want to say, okay, if it's a 2-member, then this is how much we are adding. We are adding up. But if you don't do it like that and you only give 76 Ghana cedi or 80 something, I mean, what informed that particular amount you're giving?
So as I indicated, the amount for the household was based on, if it's 1 member, the international practice was that 20% of that should be the consumption of a household. I mean, the consumption of household consumption. And that was the calculation that was done at the time. And so you don't have to simple add. So even if it's 2-member that you've taken 78, again, it will meet this 20% that we're talking about. And remember that this huge amount of money, and as you are aware, every cycle we pay not less than 27 million Ghana cedis. If we were to simple add it, you will probably be talking about 100 million per cycle. And you also notice that, I mean, it's not easy to come by money. And so what we often strive to do is to make sure that the value of the grant do not go down. But you cannot simple add and continue to add such that you are paying over 300 Ghana per household. No.
As you rightly said, it's hard to come by money. What other strategic things are we looking at to raise money so that these sort of regular, non-payment or non-release of these funds will end?
Yeah, so we are having a conversation, and the Social Protection Director is championing that. There have been some other studies from academia, and people have been tasked to look at what dedicated funding can we have, just so that for the LEAP program alone and other social protection interventions. But more importantly, the LEAP program that has come to stay and that has gained the commitment of all governments. What can we do? Are we going to tax? Are we going to say 5% from our oil money? There are a lot of discussions, and people are looking to what other monies we can get from other places dedicated for the LEAP grants, so that there will not be delays.
Well, in the lead up to this particular discussion, I was reading around and I realized that research on poverty reduction in Upper West Region, Ghana, and the role of the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program in 2019 recommended that LEAP targeting must be based on the Ghana National Household Registry database to eliminate inclusion errors. Has this been addressed, and how exactly have you done this?
Yeah, so you have to keep in mind that the LEAP started long before GNHR. And so GNHR, Ghana National Household Registry, have completed their data collection in the 5 regions of the north. As it stands now, the LEAP program has, over the years, expanded a bit. Our hope is to meet about 350,000 households. And the last expansion, I must say that we relied on GNHR data for the Upper West and Upper East region to do the expansion. Currently, we are hoping to, we've gotten some data from them, and we are trying to validate and make up to the 350,000. So we are validating within the communities to be sure that the data is authentic. Not it's authentic, but to be sure that, over time, people can migrate. Where they got you 1 year ago, but you could move and all that. So we are validating it to make sure we hit the 350,000 households. Again, the LEAP program is interested in reassessing And so to reassess, we want to leverage on the GNHR data. And so we are committed to piloting this reassessment in the 5 regions of the North, where GNHR has completed data collection. And that probably the pilot will learn lessons from them and from the pilot.
So how is this process of validation being done? I mean, if I am in that part of the country and you are validating to see whether I qualify to be part of it, what exactly is it that your men are doing on the field so we can keep track of it?
So, for instance, if GNHR says Kobina and from this household and Kojo from this household, we have our frontline workers who are working within all the districts. These are the district social welfare officers. I must commend them. They are doing a lot of work for us as we are paying. They are mobilizing our beneficiaries and ensuring that they are not shortchanged, they receive their money. So these very people would, first of all, together with the opinion leaders and community members, identify, first of all, that this person is from this extreme poor household. He lives in that poor household. There's a presence of vulnerability, and therefore the person is eligible to take the money.
Well, there's been lots of proposals and effort to expand the program over the years, and you've spoken to what is being done up there. To what extent has this been successful or not?
So again, this is just what I just finished talking about, because I remember somewhere last year we were paying about 332,000 households, and we are now paying about 344. You can see that we have moved on a bit. But it's because of this process of validation, ensuring that we get very credible and to reduce the inclusion and exclusion error, that there's still a delay. Otherwise, we have been paying about 350,000 households. In every social protection program, you obviously would have some inclusion and exclusion error, but it must be minimal to make the program effective.
Well, so in your visit to these communities, what have you observed?
The impact of the LEAP is great. We've seen that a lot of our beneficiaries are so excited, and I must thank a number of studies have been conducted that points to the fact that the LEAP program is really touching the hearts of people. It's really ensuring that people are integrated in the community. It's ensuring that there's some livelihood for our beneficiaries. People who probably were ignored within the community are part of it now, and the survival is very good now. They can coexist with their friends and families and be able to put food on the table and all that. So yes, it's been some good news visiting some of these communities. And you also remember that we know that the poor often has multiple needs, and because of that, there are some linkages that we introduce to make sure that these people don't rely only on the amount of money they take as grant here.
Well, once we know this program is heavily reliant on donor, what?
I think I corrected that.
Okay.
So that I said that government of Ghana really contribute about 70%.
Okay.
70%. So it's not.
Do I get the impression then that there's no more that donor agencies can do to help?
They are trying. You can remember that the current payment really was supported by UNICEF. UNICEF facilities the reason why we are going to make this payment. And UNICEF really have tried hard, and they've contributed in several ways to make this program better. As we speak, our e-reporting was supported by UNICEF so that monitoring is done real time. Our MIS systems is strengthened by UNICEF, and other consultants are working with us, and they are more concerned for the program. And so WLP is also trying to help us in our bid to do this reassessment. World Bank already has demonstrated their support for the program. So donor support cannot be overlooked at all.
When it comes to this District Assembly Common Fund, there is a part of it for fiscally challenged people. What I know for some districts, what some districts started doing were that they were rather procuring things that could set them up than to give money directly to them so that it doesn't look as though without that support, then their lives become, in quotes, some things that we don't want to talk about. What strategic things do you think you can also do to ensure that we move from the hand to mouth than probably setting them up so we can sustainably manage this fund?
Yeah, so so we are doing a lot, and I know that these new liberal approaches probably cannot work fully as long as the LEAP program is concerned. We are aware that even if we give some of those people machines, as you've seen and shown, to work, it probably will not work. You know, there's people like that, older people, 65 years and above, without support, nothing is getting to the family. I don't think a sewing machine would help such a person. And so we have to continue to make sure they live as like human beings, they get the support till God calls them. We're also aware that some severely disabled people can simply not just work, so we have to help them. But those that can work, really, we introduce some nudges. We argue that you should be able to put aside some of the money, no matter how small that is, to be able to engage in some productive inclusion. And I can tell you there are a lot of success stories of our beneficiaries who are doing petty trading, others are into some productive inclusion and what have you. All we need to do is support them with more funding to make sure that they improve on their business, their productive inclusion. We also work together with the labor-intensive public work. It's all under the Ghana Productive Safety Net project. And so we ask that while they introduce the labor-intensive public work in the communities, they must prioritize LEAP communities. So they probably is an able-bodied person within the household who can come and do that labor and get some money to still support the household. Okay. We also have the productive inclusion where they are into soap making and all that, training them. So they've also tried to prioritize the LEAP household. So we're doing all that to make sure that, of course, people are moved, or our beneficiaries really leapfrog poverty. But I must tell you, there are others that cannot leapfrog, as you've seen. So we must continue to give them that support, that help. And social protection across the globe, they are doing that, not just here. If you look at sub-Saharan Africa, we are even behind. And even countries where their GDP is high, they've introduced social protection. And so we just have to do more and improve the system.
What about children and orphans? How are these category of people also captured under the program? And how many do you have as of now?
So they fall under the vulnerability group. They fall under the vulnerability group. So we have about orphans and vulnerable children, about 362,572 orphans and vulnerable children in the program, individuals.
Okay. Now, to what extent has you've mentioned about how lives are being changed with this program? Is it only about where we are focusing, or when we look at the program in its entirety throughout the country, how are the stories like?
So the stories are good, but I must say, because I'm here, you think that probably we are blowing our own trumpet. But there are studies. Imani did some study not too long ago. You may want to look at it. University of North Carolina and Easter, there are several studies that points to the fact that we did some midline evaluation and all that. Those all are success stories. And our own reports, going to the field and listening to the beneficiaries, tell us how they are happy about the money they receive, no matter how small it is. It's our prayer that we would increase the money going forward. Okay. And we are also committed to make sure that we reassess again, because a program of this nature over this period of time has not been reassessed. We are committed now as a ministry, and I want to thank the Minister of Gender, Children, Social Protection, and our Chief Director for all the support that they are giving. Recently, we met with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Social Protection, Gender, and they helped us to enrich the roadmap towards this reassessment. So we thank all of them, and we continue to work to ensure that these vulnerable people are paid timely and ensure that their well-being is ensured. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ongo there. So Miles Ongo is the head of the LEAP Secretariat. Thanks very much to him for joining us.